It's very hard to give up possibility of income, but you also have to think about what am I sacrificing to be available all the time? And is that worth it?
The Massage and Physical Therapist Talk Show, brought to you by Massage Warehouse.
Hi, sorry to interrupt, but just a quick cheesy message just to say, if you're really enjoying this episode, you're enjoying this podcast, please do like, subscribe and share. Subscribing to these podcasts really helps us as the Massage and Physical Therapist Talk Show book an amazing plethora of guests. If you subscribe, it means that we can plan ahead. We know who's listening. It means that we can attract the best guests and we can make the podcast the best it can possibly be. So thank you for enjoying and keep coming back and listening, and please do keep subscribing, keep sharing, and let's build this amazing community together. Enjoy the rest of the show. So, welcome back to the Massage and Physical Therapist Talk Show. Today we're on episode 15, and we've got a very special guest. I will bang the drum to introduce. You can hear that. I need like a trumpet as well. So today we've got Katherine Creighton Crook. Hello, Katherine. So I'm just going to give you a really big intro because I've got down here that you are the creator of My Massage Mentor. And you are the founder of Leighton Sport Massage, a multi-award winning clinic with 3 locations within London. So that sounds straight off like you must be very busy. How's it going?
Yeah, it's going really well. So we have we now call ourselves LSM Clinic because we started out as Leighton Sports Massage because I started in Leighton. And so I actually started my clinic back in 2010. And then I was like, what can I do for SEO? So I was like, well, I'm in Leighton, so I'll call it Leighton Sports Massage. And then as we expanded, a lot of people would be like, oh, are you in Leighton? Or like, oh, no, we're actually also in Walthamstow and we're also in Angel. So call it LSM Clinic. And I have run that clinic since 2010. I have a fantastic team of 4 massage therapists that work with me. I've developed something called Creighton Structural Massage, which is a very structural and targeted approach to soft tissue. And then I think it was about 2019 or 2018 that I started My Massage Mentor, which was all about helping massage therapists to learn like the business side, like the stuff that we all tend to struggle with. That kind of took a pause during the pandemic as like we all shut down and we were all trying to figure out how to move forward in the lockdown. But I do have a Facebook group that I am resurrecting, and I'm actually starting a local support group in London for massage therapists through the FHT. Yeah, so that's a bit about me.
Well, it sounds really interesting, actually. And I was just going to say, obviously, to anyone listening to this, the subject of today's talk show, podcast, whatever you want to call this, what we're doing, kind of must come in with you because obviously you're so busy and you're doing a lot. Do you do a lot of hands-on work yourself, or have you transitioned more to the sort of day-to-day running of the business? And
So actually, about a year ago, I transitioned. So instead of having like a regular schedule of hands-on in-clinic appointments, I do 1 week a quarter now because I was trying to do all of those things and I just ended up being burnt out. And I also have like a healing business that's kind of grown out of the massage therapy work and visceral manipulation that I do online. So a lot of my client work is now with that avenue. But one of the things that I do that I really love in the clinic is I do consultations. So if my team have a client where they're not getting the results that they want, or they're a little bit stuck, or they feel like they're missing something, I'll come in and do a consultation with that client, which means I get to work on all the really complicated cases. So still keeping my hand in while spending so much time running the business and doing all of the kind of stuff that we do to keep the business side going.
so it's like they get on the bat phone and they give the superhero a call when they need to, and there's no other options.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, good. I like that. Well, that, today's subject is setting healthy boundaries for massage therapists. So this is such an important subject in the role that we do, because, it's a very empathetic sort of job, isn't it? We're kind of, everyone throws everything at us every day. People come to see us. They're not always in the best of moods. it's a trick. It can be a tricky role sometimes. We're not just massage therapists, physical touch therapists, reflexologists, sports masseuses. We're actually like therapists, just as a big sort of, people just like talking to us as well, don't they?
Yes.
Is this something you've dealt with a lot, over the many years that you've been doing this? Is it something
Yeah.
that, because I feel with this subject, like when you first start out, you want to be absolutely everything for everyone.
Mhm.
And let's have it right. When you first start out, you're just full of just that buzz, aren't you? And you just keep going, and you probably just don't put the brakes on. And me especially, I would definitely say I'm what they call a yes man. So I don't like saying no to people.
Mhm.
And I will go out my way to try and accommodate absolutely everything and anyone and whatever they ask. Do you know? Um, Even if it was something absolutely crazy like helping them find a pink elephant in the local park, I'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, you know what? Well, I probably know somewhat. But, let me make it a few calls." Like, that I
Yeah.
can't say no to things. And recently, especially, I feel like that's the kind of thing I need to be, not just in work, just in general. Um, at the minute over the summer's just gone with a flash. I've got a housework going on extension.
Mhm.
Really busy with work. Somehow signed up for a 10K run on Sunday, that I've forgotten about, and it's this Sunday. And I've not ran in God knows how long. So, but it's just a prime example of me saying yes to everything and trying to just please everyone. Now, obviously, clients, I think, sometimes forget that they're not our only client, obviously. And that's fine, obviously they're there for that time with you, but I think sometimes they can forget that it is a busy, busy business. And there's probably 100 other clients just like them that are obviously texting, messaging, emailing,
Mhm.
too. So how do we tackle this tricky subject, Catherine? So how can we be everything for everyone?
I think that as much as I think we'd all like to be able to heal the whole world, we have to recognize that we are limited and that we have limited resources, and that because we have limited resources like in energy, time, focus, we have to recognize that we're going to be more effective if we focus those resources somewhere specifically. And I mean, to be honest, the whole cultural narrative around productivity doesn't really help us because we're taught to think of ourselves so much as machines. Like we put this in, we get this out, instead of recognizing that we have peaks and troughs in our energy flow, and that just because we can do something one day doesn't mean we can't do it another. And if we can't do it this other day, it doesn't mean we're a failure. It's just we're more cyclical beings versus something that can get the same output every single day. And we really want to help everyone. And I think it comes from a good place because we don't want to be discriminatory against people. But the truth is that we're always going to be better suited to some people than others, and we're always going to be able to have like a natural affinity for certain things. And I think when you're starting out, it's okay to have like a broader net when it comes to working with different people and trying different things, and that can start to give you a sense of who you're best suited for. But if you do try to do everything for everybody, you are a finite person. You will eventually run out. So you've got to have some sort of guidelines in place for yourself so that you're taking care of yourself. Because the thing to remember, and this is often how we have to put it to ourselves to make ourselves follow our own boundaries or our own guidelines, is that we are good to no one if we are burnt out and non-functional.
I really I resonate with this a lot because obviously being self-employed, which is what I am, if I don't work, I don't earn.
Yeah.
Simply. So what I often find, and I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will find, is that obviously they're working all day and then obviously having to sit then and respond to everything in the evenings. And if you miss an evening, then it adds on to the next day. And then you're behind, and you might have obviously clients that you need to be contacting or responding to that have messaged you and said like, "Oh, I'm feeling like this after this session. What does it mean?" And you don't want to not message them back and seem like you're not bothered. but ultimately, I guess what we need to kind of try and think about is that it's not that we're not bothered. It's just that I'm currently at home right now cooking beans for my child for their tea on the stove. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
or I'm bathing, it's bath time, or not even that. Not everyone's got kids at home that need to be doing all that, but I'm just sat having a coffee and chilling out for a minute.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? But but does the client see it that way?
So I think this is where like having policies comes into play really well, because if you communicate to people ahead of time what they can expect, then that's what they'll expect. And there's a nuance here because it's not just about communicating your policies, but it's about following your own policies. So for example, we have a policy at the clinic that we don't like respond or contact clients before 8 or 9 in the morning, even if a therapist is up and ready. Sometimes they have 8 o'clock appointments, so they'll be in the clinic at 7:30. We're not sending things before 8 or 9 because we don't want the client to have the expectation that they receive anything before 8 or 9. And generally, we try not to send things after 6. Sometimes 8, like if a therapist is finishing up, but we will not reply to things after 6. And that clearly communicates to people that we are not on the clock in between those outside of those hours. And having something like a communication policy, like something I like to say to my clients is, I don't believe in rushed responses, right? I want to respond to you when I have the focus and time to do so. So sometimes it might take me 2 or 3 days to reply to you, or even longer if it's like a non-urgent query. And I give you that same space. So I don't expect a 24-hour response. I don't expect a 2 or 3 day response. If that's not like, if somebody's messaging you and they're like, I need an appointment in 2 days, you kind of need to get back to them sooner rather than later. But then there are also structures in place that you can put in place. So one of the early things I did, probably after just a couple of years, is I found an answering service because I was having people call me and not leave messages, or they would leave messages. And by the time I was able to call them back, because I was in appointments, they would have already found something else. So I calculated the cost of having an answering service. And I realized that if I have an answering service and they even just save me at that time, I think it was 2 appointments a month, then it pays for itself. And then anytime you get an appointment, it's a repeat client.
So how does that answering service work then? What like
But that's
an automated thing that?
no, it's like a person. So
Oh,
it's a company that offers. So initially, I started out with something that they would just pick up the phone and take a message because people just weren't calling back. But then I found someone that does diary service and FAQs as well. And I found that was just really helpful because it meant like from their Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then they get a voicemail after that time. It just meant that people are getting booked in without me having to do anything. People are rescheduling without me having to do anything. And people are getting their general questions answered, like where are we and what are our prices, without me having to do anything. And when you're starting out, that's probably not a cost that makes sense. But once you're busy enough, if you can do that cost calculation of, well, if they even get me 2 appointments that I wouldn't have otherwise, or 4 appointments, because like it's, costs more now than it did 10 years ago. Um, then that's worth it. And then that saves me the time when you can split your time up. Like, I want to be with clients and I want to be having personal time. And then there's required admin. So how much time do you want to be spending doing the admin, and how much time is that time worth to you? Does that make sense?
yeah, I think I mean that's brilliant. That I think everyone would love to have that. I think there'll be a lot of therapists so that probably just can't justify the costs to have, it's like a remote PA, isn't it? It's someone somewhere that's kind of managing whatever it is you need them to do, bookings, whatever. But I'm thinking, well, a lot of therapists that are just, sole traders, self-employed, they've not got a team or maybe a big clinic. Maybe it's a setup in their garden, like a garden room. And they tend to use their own, like me, their own phone that isn't a business phone. It's, so my mum might be texting me on here as well as a client,
Mhm.
that does make it harder. I make a rod for my own back because obviously a text will come through now and I'll obviously check it because
Mhm.
it could be the nursery saying that I need to go and pick my kid up, or it will be one of my clients asking something. asking if they can book in next week, even though every single time I always tell everyone they can use the booking system online. If I'm
Mm,
available, it'll be on there, you know,
mm.
which I found helped, by the way,
Yes,
just doing it all
really
that way.
does.
But so maybe people in my position like that use one phone for everything could look to get a business number or a divert to a business number. You can pretty much pick up SIMs now for next to nothing or get extra ones and stuff. And then
Absolutely.
maybe have a voicemail set on that for when it's turned off, just saying, hi, business hours are closed now. Thanks for getting in touch. Please do leave a message or feel free to email and we'll pick it up as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So that there's something there so that when they're ringing, they're not just getting a phone is switched off or you know, not just a no reply. I guess that's probably a decent way to look at it. I just can never be bothered having two phones. That was my thing. I didn't want like a work phone and a non-work phone because I guess being self-employed, I feel like I am always working.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And that's my choice in a way because obviously I don't want to miss out on certain things. So, and I've got a vested interest in it because it's my thing.
Yeah.
But I guess for you, because you've got a team working with you,
Mhm.
obviously I don't know the ins and outs if they're self-employed or if they actually employed by you, but if they are, you know, I guess they've got that freedom of only having to reply to things in during work hours as well, I guess, because they're not expected to have to do that in the, you know, when they're not technically working. Is that right?
Well, I think it's a bit tricky because, like, for example, like generally, yes, like I try to make it so that my team doesn't have to do anything outside of like when they're working, but then obviously they have to do like notes and things outside of the time that they're with clients, and then they fit that in when that makes sense for them. But every once in a while, you will have a client who's like had a bad reaction or has some questions and they'll want to speak to somebody. So then sometimes the client, the therapist might need to call or talk to someone on a non-clinic day. But we do try to keep that to a minimum. And I really understand, like, I started my clinic in 2010 and I did everything for like the first 3 or 4 years. Um, and it's very hard to give up possibility of income, but you also have to think about what am I sacrificing to be available all the time? And is that worth it? Because you can absolutely have clients who do not expect an immediate reply. You can absolutely have clients who are happy to go and use the online booking. Um, some people can't because of accessibility issues. So I think we always have to be mindful of that and be making accommodation for people who need it. But you can tell the difference between somebody who just wants to text you on the day and say, do you have any appointments today? Versus someone who's trying to navigate, like has trouble with an online system and needs support. And like you definitely, I think there's also different phases to consider. Like when you're starting out, you probably do need to push yourself a little bit more than is ideal. Then you should get to a point where you're established enough and you have a client base and you have processes in place where you're marketing and you're bringing clients in that you can start to have a little bit more structure to your life so that you can have off, because we physically can't maintain that kind of level that we have in the first few years indefinitely. And I know
Yeah.
I definitely suffered from burnout. I know a lot of other therapists who suffered from burnout, and sometimes burnout can take like 2 or 3 years to recover from.
Yeah. And it's not ideal if you're running your own business because, you
Yeah.
know, it's not like you can just go off sick for a week or whatever because you're the one running everything. So, you know, there's got to be someone above you then to take over from that. So, do you think it's worth having on like your emails, having like a bit of a note at the bottom that just sort of says like, you know, I've seen people put stuff before where they've sort of said, I reply to emails at a time that, you know, that's good for me. Please don't feel like you have to respond at that same moment. Because obviously you get some people that like to reply to emails at the dead of night. You
Yeah.
know, that's their till time, you know. Also, and what I quite like to do is, you know, occasionally, I've not been doing it the last few weeks, but getting up early. I like getting up early while the whole house is asleep. You know, I like getting up at 5 a.m., you know, and sitting with a coffee and just catching up with some emails while knowing that everyone else is just fast asleep, no distractions. But obviously me replying to emails at 5 in the morning, you don't want them thinking that they've then got to respond at that time as well. So I guess some kind of tagline just sort of saying something along them lines. And also mentioning that during busy periods, you might not be able to respond straight away. But it doesn't mean you don't care, which is what you don't want them to think, that you're just not bothered, or, oh, they've seen me now and that's it. They're not bothered about me anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's like so important, is to communicate what your kind of policies or the things that you have in place are. So, and I know a lot of people don't read auto replies, but we do have an auto reply on our info email. So me and another member of the team, like within the clinic, will check the email a couple times a day. And so with the info email, if somebody emails it, we have a reply that says, hey, just so you know, we check this twice a day. When a therapist is available, we'll get back to you within like 2 to 3 business days. If it's urgent, you can call this number, or you can, and obviously that's because we have an answering service, which is not a lot, by the way. Like, I think when I started, it was about £100 a month, which is usually like 2 or 3 appointments. Like, I think a lot of people think like they're hiring a part-time staff, but it can just be, we have probably like 60 calls a month. But anyway, that's inside. And you can say, or you can, if you want to book, you can book online using this link. And then that communicates to people kind of like when you are going to respond to them. They know the emails come through. And then, you can use like a funny line at the top if you want to make it more intriguing for people to read. Like sometimes I'll write new auto reply, check it out. So that people actually go in
So is
and
it
like
your
read
voice?
the-
Is it
No,
your
no,
voice talk?
it's an email. So like if somebody emails the info, like our info email address, then they automatically get an email back that just is like, hey, we've received it. This is when we'll get back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a great, I mean, obviously even people, so do you have that on all the time? Because so even if,
Yeah.
so everyone that emails, even if it's in a conversation, they'll get that back first. Is that how it
I
works?
think it's set so it's just the first time
Just the
somebody
first time.
emails.
Yeah.
But you should be able to set that in your email program, whatever you use, the like set up the auto reply, and then it'll have settings as to like, do you want it to send to everybody? Do you want it to send just at the first email? And that kind of thing.
So it would be good practice for people just getting used to going onto their email settings at the start of a busy day, for instance, and just putting on there, hey, I've got a really busy day today. I will get back to your email as soon as possible, but please bear with me because I've got a busy week, and just be transparent. And then if I seen that, I'd be like, oh yes, Al. If I was emailing and waiting for a reply on someone. So that's a good shout as well. Do you have any clients that are friends, or that have become really good friends, or that they've been seeing you now for so many years that they've crossed that boundary of they expect more from you because they know you really well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know you. So I have had friends who come to see me as clients. I have maybe had 1 or 2 people who were clients see me as friend. I do try to keep that to a minimum though, because for me, the definition of a friendship is that we expect things from each other, like beyond just like professional courtesy. And I feel like we are often safe spaces for people to come in. And the reason that we're a safe space is because we're not a part of their life. So
Yeah.
once we become a part of their life, that dynamic can change. But I don't I don't really say I have people who expect a lot from me. I feel like the people who have been with me longer give me more grace, if that makes sense. So it's like, because I have a good relationship with them, they know, like, oh, I'm just thinking of one client now who I sent my September dates out and they sent me a message and it was over a week ago and I haven't responded. But they know that I will hold the place for them. They know that I will make sure that I have the time. So they haven't sent me another thing, because we have that relationship where they know I'm not gonna forget about them, or I'm not gonna drop the ball with them. Might take me a little while to get back to them. But so it's often, I find that when I have a longer term relationship with clients, that's when we're more understanding of each other. And then that might mean that if they text me 5 minutes before that they're sick, instead of having told me as early as they can, I mean, I'll always waive the cancellation fee when they're sick, right? Because you can't treat people when they're sick. But, I might, if they're like, oh, things come at last minute, can I come later? I might let them come later that one time. Whereas with someone who I don't have as good a relationship, I might not. But they also, if they're like, I can't come, can I come later? And it's not something like related to sickness or personal emergency. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, I've got a full day today. I can't fit you in anywhere. They wouldn't blink an eye at my cancellation fee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because it
And
is
so
tricky.
Yeah.
With clients that you know really well, because obviously they do get a bit touchy sometimes if they get charged for a late cancellation, and it's a bit like, come on, you've been coming here this long, the drill. It's my job too, do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it can make it really awkward. And it's funny because I've got quite a lot of clients that are, a lot of men and women that come to see me. And occasionally, like, one of the blokes, for instance, he, would be coming to see me for God knows how long now. But I only ever really see him in that setting. And there was once when we bumped into each other in Manchester, and it was a bit weird because it was like, oh, hi, and it was kind of, I was wearing different clothes because I wasn't working, and it sounds really funny, doesn't it? But it was awkward in a non-awkward kind of way because we were both like, oh yeah, how you doing? But it was just strange seeing them in an outside world setting because it was like, I'm not used to seeing you in the real world,
Yes.
It kind of felt a bit like, oh, good job I wasn't like dancing in the street or like,
Yeah.
walking around with a load of beers in my hand, like, whee. But yeah, that is always I guess I don't have clients that I'd go out to watch concerts with or whatever, really. I've kind of not at that. Maybe I'm just not at that stage yet. I'm
I
sure
think
people do have clients that have become good friends and that they go for drinks with and stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know.
I have heard of situations, not within massage therapy, but of situations where a therapeutic relationship did go into a friendship. And then the person who had been the client on that side didn't really feel like they were getting the support that they had before because it had become a two-way thing. I think that's something we have to be careful with because like sometimes our clients, like they're kind people, they're nice people, they want to take care of people. And if we are not careful to maintain that kind of boundary, they can end up trying to caretake us because that's what they know, right? So they might go, how are you? How's your life going? And they genuinely want to know and care. But then if we start talking about all of our life stuff, then they kind of lose that support. And I also think there's a distinction, like, I've been invited to clients' weddings before, or like they have events. And it is weird to be like, I'm their massage therapist.
Yeah,
But
people at the wedding say, "Oh, so how do you know such and such?" And you're like, "Oh, well, I massage him every Friday."
yeah, but it's like in those situations, I'm still in my mind going as a massage therapist to that person. And like one of the things that I will say to people who are my friends who come to see me is like in this room, there is like a boundary around this room. Anything you say around in this room is treatment, and I don't know it outside of this space.
Yeah.
So unless you mention it outside of the space, I won't say it. And I think that it becomes even more important if you're treating someone who is a friend to kind of have that delineation, because I have received massages from friends and they talk loads about themselves. They take their hands off me for the hour loads. Like they are in friend mode. And so I get a worse massage experience. And I've learned that I have to be careful who I would like exchange treatments with because people will not treat me like a client if they see me as a friend. And that's just a really easy mindset thing to kind of fall out of because you're not thinking, oh, this is a client. You're thinking, oh, this is a friend.
The Massage and Physical Therapist talk show is brought to you by Massage Warehouse. Run by therapists for therapists, we're committed to solving common issues you might encounter in your massage therapy practice. Here at Massage Warehouse, we understand how important your massage table is to you and how much you try to keep your table protected. Oh! However, accidents can happen. The last thing any therapist wants to see is an unsightly tear, rip, or mark on their table. Not only do these marks look bad, there is a chance that they will grow and cause even more damage to your table. Many therapists think they'll have to replace their entire table. However, we have a solution. Introducing our massage table adhesive repair patches, the simple way to fix tears and prevent further damage to your table. To use the patch, first clean around the area of the tear for any dust or dirt using a dry cloth. Next, peel off the back of the patch. After this, carefully apply the patch over the tear. Finally, smooth around the edges of the repair patch for perfect application. And your table should be repaired and good to go. Our patches come in 3 different colours: black, navy and cream. We have different size repair patches available, and should you have a uniquely shaped tear on your upholstery, we can create a custom size repair patch for you. Check out our website massagewarehouse.co.uk to see the full range. Now back to the show.
No one likes to hear that the price has gone up or that, you know, something's changed. People don't like change, do they? So what do we do in that situation when it's someone that's so regular to your space and that will just text you and this, that and the other, you know? They're the ones that yeah, it fills me with dread and worry if I ever have to think about putting prices up.
Yeah, and putting prices up is a really hard one, especially in like the current climate that we're all living in, like the cost of living stuff. And so I think at that point you have a choice, right? And I think it's always really important. We always have choices. Like one of the things that I say is don't make other people responsible for your boundaries, but also recognize you have control over your boundaries. So if someone's saying if you raise your prices, you have to raise them for everybody or it's not fair, you can decide if you agree with that or not. Like you might have a client who you know is on a fixed or low income who would really be negatively impacted by a price increase and decide just for that client that you're going to not increase it as much. But that's because you feel like it's the right thing to do, not because you're being bullied by a client who's like, oh, it's too much. Because, you know, we've all had that experience. Rare. We've had that experience where somebody's like, oh, I can't afford a massage. And then they like go on 4 holidays a year overseas. And you're like, I'm not going to judge what anybody wants to do with their money, but it can be hard when someone's like, I can't afford this, but they're buying a lot of other more expensive things. And you're like, well, it's not that you can't afford it, it's that you're just choosing to spend your money differently, which is fine. But then, you know, we're internalizing that problem. So if, for example, you want to raise your prices, there are things that you can do to make clients feel like they're getting like a little bit of special treatment. So like one of the things we do is we'll raise our prices. We haven't done it too often, but when we raise our prices, we'll say to all of our existing clients, like, for this month, you can have the old price.
Yeah.
Or what I've done before is I've said, if you want to buy a package, we don't often do packages, but I was like, if you want to buy a package of 5 or 10, you can buy them at the old price. And then you have that for the next few months if you want. And then that kind of gives the existing clients the feeling like they're getting a little bit of acknowledgement that they're existing clients without, you know, extending the discount forever. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do things where you're like, here, I'm going to give you this little bit of concession so that you have the lower price for an extra month or 2 or whatever, and then raise the price. And I feel like it really says a lot about people about how they respond to your price increases, because I'll never forget, I had a friend when I was first starting out, and she was a friend and she wanted to come see me, and I was like, oh, I'll give you a discount. And she goes, no, I'm your friend. I want to support your business. And that always really stuck in my head because I was like, a friend wants to support me, not wants me to give them a discount. So if you like, you'll have, I'm sure you've had this when you vary prices. You have some clients who are like, oh yeah, that's fine. An extra £5 or an extra £10. You're totally worth it. Like I'd pay that to stay, like I'd pay more than that to stay with you. And then you have some people are like, oh my gosh, an extra £5. And you're like, you're seeing me once a month and it's an extra £5.
Yeah. So it's like £1 a week just over.
Yeah. So I think that's also something to consider as well. Like if your clients were really friendly with you or they really valued you, unless they're in serious financial difficulty, which is a different conversation, then will they really care if you raise your prices a bit? And then you can also pull out I have to be fair to everybody.
Yeah. think that's the blanket sort of one, isn't it? It's kind of, that's just, everything else is going up. What gets me, and I think like now more than ever, is I'm not too bothered about things like that, is because, someone like Oasis will just announce they're reforming and tickets are like £200, and that's not, no one's even bothered. That's like, I'm getting tickets on Saturday. Great. So it's priorities, it's how people want to spend the money. If everything's going up and you need to put your prices up, you just do it.
Yeah,
And you explain. If anyone kicks back about it, you just have to you just explain it.
yeah,
I'm sorry. The price of such and such has gone up so much now that it's just what it is. And I guess you just, like you say, if you want to personally say to a client that's a regular that might be struggling, oh well, I'll keep yours at this rate. That's down to you, and it's your business, isn't it? And it's how you want to run
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
I've in the past I've tend to just done a blanket thing because, like I say, regular clients that really value it, and friends maybe, they support anyway because
yeah,
they should do. And I've always thought offering like friends and family discounts always been a bit of you know a gripe of mine, because it's your friends and family that should be supporting your business. Not
exactly.
if I've got friends who are like painters and decorators and roofers and bricklayers and stuff, and I would never dream of asking them to come and do me a job for cheap. I'd ask them to come and do me a job because I know they're really good, and I know as my
Yeah,
friend they would make sure that they do a really good job. But I
yeah,
would never ever expect to pay them any less than, you know, because they're my mates, and I'm choosing them because I want to give them work.
yes,
I'd rather my money go to them because they're my friends. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's
exactly.
the mindset
100%.
that people need to be in, is that, you know, you've got a worth, and it's not to worry. Well, I think that there's a lot, obviously this could go on forever, because obviously burnout in our field is it can be anything from emotional burnout, it can be physical burnout, you know, it could be both of those things all at once, and
Yep.
it can change week by week depending what's going on. So I guess we just have to remember that although we love the job that we do, and we love this thing that we're building, and it's our thing, and it's, it is, you've got to put boundaries in place. You've got to make sure that you do switch off and close up shop for the night at a specific time. Um, Communication with clients, putting things on your emails, or like making them aware that, replies will not be instant,
Mm,
because you're a busy human doing lots of different things.
yeah.
And I think just that in itself is a big step in kind of putting the brakes on and just sort of going, right, this is getting a bit mad now. I need to just sort of curb it a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I agree. And I think if you really want if you want a really revolutionary way to frame it to yourself, which I don't think this should be revolutionary, or if that one is, we don't even need to justify that we're busy. Like the fact that our culture prioritizes instant responses and instant results is something wrong with like our society in general. Things take time. People deserve to have time. So you can just think of it as I am not supporting a hustle instant culture by not replying back to people immediately or feeling the pressure to do so. And yeah, so you can absolutely say, look, I respond within this time frame because I want to give you the attention that you deserve. Not because like obviously absolutely you can say it's because you're busy, but you can also say it's because I don't want to rush my communication with you. I'm like trying to work on having a less rushed life. I want to have space in my life. And you can take the time that you need to reply as well. And I think like the one thing, if there's anything that people can take away from this conversation, and it's a really important reframe, is that your boundaries are your responsibility and they're about what you do, not what you make other people do. So your boundary would be, I don't reply to things after 6 p.m. Could be a boundary. For example, it's not, you can't contact me after 6 p.m. And then if someone asks you something and you say yes, make sure you're okay with it, right? Because it's not really fair to the person asking the question if you say yes, but you're resenting them for asking the question. That's your boundary. Your boundary is, do I accept this request or do I not? And if you don't want to do it, then say no. And you don't have to say no in a rude way. You can say, that's not in my capacity right now, or I'm not available at these times, or, this is my price going forward. And if that doesn't work for you, I totally understand. But if you're going to say, yes, okay, I'll take an early appointment, come in and be happy that you're taking it because you made that choice. So those are just the last couple thoughts I wanted to share around boundaries.
And I think practice what you preach as well, because obviously our line of work is about, helping people feel good. So no one really, when you actually look at it, will expect us to be corporate sort of button bashing on a laptop 24 hours a day, constantly on call. I think people would expect if you were like, a bit slower with your replies because you made sure that your reply was actually a proper reply and not just quickly done on your iPhone while you're in, in between jobs kind of thing. They'd get it. They'd be like, oh yeah, because that's what they preach to me. When you're talking to your clients, we're always telling them about slowing down and about, this, like you said, this culture of having to reply to everything instantly and everything's now. So they get it anyway. I think we just sometimes overthink it and think, oh my God, I need to reply to this, as if the world's going to spontaneously combust just because you've not replied to an email that came in 5 minutes ago, So I think hopefully we've put this into perspective for a lot of people today. It's put it into perspective for me as well, definitely. Which is just what I needed right now, actually. So, Katherine, thank you so much for making me feel wonderful this morning. How can we find you, Katherine? Is there anything people can do to, I know you've got the mentorship thing going on and things like that. So what can people do with you or with your team?
Okay, so I would say for like massage, treating related content, I have a YouTube channel called LSM Clinic. It is aimed more at clients, but it talks a lot about how we treat things and like our theoretical explanations for why things happen, which I think is great for massage therapists. And then the Facebook group, My Massage Mentor UK, is being revitalized as we speak because I'm going to start using it more actively now that we're kind of hopefully properly out of the lockdown stuff and pandemic. Seems like a long time, but I don't know about you, but it's taken us quite a while to recover from everything that happened.
Yeah, still recovering a lot of people as well. Yeah. We're getting there though. So
that Facebook group, and so people can join that. And then if they want to email me to be able to stay in touch, I don't currently have an active email list for my massage mentor, so they can email me at katherine@lsmclinic.co.uk if they just want to be kept in the loop. But generally speaking, the YouTube channel for the clinic and the Facebook group, My Massage Mentor UK, are going to be probably the best places for people to go.
Brilliant. And do you use Instagram and things like that as well? Or have you got one for LSM Clinic?
But I have an LSM Clinic Instagram, but I'm notoriously bad at like going in and checking DMs. So you can definitely follow at LSM Clinic.
And just see what you're up to. Yeah.
Yeah. But for the most part, I think those ways would be the best.
Brilliant. Well, what I will say to everyone listening is don't forget to like and subscribe, and that really helps these episodes reach more people. It helps us bring more fantastic guests in like Katherine to talk about, what they do and get their unique perspective on this never-ending list of questions that we have regarding the work that we all do. So, Katherine, it's been an absolute joy chatting to you, and I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I'll look forward to listening to this one back and reminding myself when I need it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a wonderful conversation.
Oh, brilliant.
The Massage and Physical Therapist Talk Show. We discuss the talking points that matter to you, the therapist. A lot of work goes into creating the talk shows, and we'd be very grateful if you can choose Massage Warehouse when shopping for massage supplies so we can continue to create these amazing podcasts. Massage Warehouse is your one-stop shop for massage supplies and does great work supporting our wonderful community. Until next time,